It's week 5 of training less for Boston.
Back at you, Jeff Ford and Lindsay Martin. We
Yep.
are psyched to get going again this week, discussing Hilton Head Half Marathon. We had a bunch of athletes out there, so we can talk about all the results. And then we also want to speak on benchmarking. Is that
Yes.
what we're thinking about?
Yeah.
Cool. So tell everyone about the half, Linz.
The half was fun. It started at 8 a.m., which is always a good time for a race to start, because you can still sleep in a little bit.
Okay, so we know the race was at 8 a.m.
The race was at 8 a.m. I finished in 1 hour and 39 minutes and a few seconds added on to that. But my goal was to get under an hour and 40 minutes. I knew it wasn't going to be my fastest time because I didn't really taper. That really wasn't what I was trying to do with this particular half. But the race went well. The last 4 miles were a little bit tough for me. I think I went out too fast. My first mile was 7 minutes, and
that's a little quick.
That was not what I should have done.
That's closer to Lindsay's 5K pace.
Yeah.
So
I think it was just the adrenaline and just learning from that.
Hilton Head's a tough course too, because there's a bridge in the middle. It's boring. You run down the Cross Island Parkway. I mean, great race, great benchmark, but we used it just for that reason. We didn't taper at all. Typically we'll take those longer runs to 13 or 15 miles and put it on a time trial type effort. So it was good to do that. It got cold out there too. Rainy a little bit. Probably about middle of the race, it started to get a little chilly.
I couldn't feel my hands. I had to have one of the volunteers actually unzip part of my shorts so he could get one of the gels out because I couldn't feel my hands.
Crazy.
Probably thought I was nuts.
Yeah, just like everyone else.
That's okay. Well, how was your race?
My race was good. I have a lot of comparison on this course, which is good because last year I ran it actually just after a marathon. It was probably about 3 weeks after, and didn't go too bad. But obviously, you don't want to really be racing too much that close after a marathon. But I ran about, it was like, 100 seconds faster, 90 to 100 seconds faster this year. So definitely good to see that. Didn't taper. We trained through the week. I even swam pretty hard on Friday. So not much rest before this race, but it was a great benchmark.
Yeah. So what is a benchmark, Jeff?
I mean, benchmarks are really about making sure that there's progress throughout your training. A benchmark, it gives you just a number so that you know you're making improvements. If you're not benchmarking as you train for something, then I don't think you're training. That goes back to exercising. It's like recording the results, and if those results have decreased from the last time, or basically worse from the last time you did it, then there's an issue. There's either an issue with the recovery, the nutrition, the pacing plan on that day. Obviously, not every race is going to be like exactly the same conditions and the same difficulty, but with all variables holding true, you should always be advancing in your times and your strength numbers as well. It's very, very similar to that.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing this again, Palmetto Bluff, which is in exactly 4 weeks from today, and just to see, and we'll taper for that one just to see where we're at.
Yeah, that's going to be a great benchmark before Boston, because we're going to be about 5 to 6 weeks out from Boston at that point. And typically in a training protocol this long, we'll have our athletes taper off for at least one, B race, as you could think about it, like one lead up race to that A race. But yeah, that should be good. I think we'll crush it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I did that one last year, and it's a really nice course. Not a lot of people either.
Yeah. So you did really well on it. But as far as like endurance goes, benchmarking at all distances is important too. So typically I want to know intervals less than 2 minutes, how fast my athlete can go, like a 400 meter time trial. But for marathon training, the 5K and the 10K are very important time trials. But then taking it even out to that half marathon distance is solid, and it allows us to predict, what that athlete can hold to come up with the proper pacing plan. So that you don't go out at 7-minute miles.
Yeah. Well, I think a big thing with the benchmarks is it kind of, if you've got a goal, it helps you get to that goal. And if you're never testing along the way, it can be hard to visualize.
Measure things.
Yeah.
And visualize getting there too, because you don't have the confidence. I think that's one thing that our athletes could struggle with this type of training, is that we don't do that 20-mile run typically. We'll do it if the athlete needs that for their head, but I don't like to do it because of the recovery consequences, because we know at that 13 to 15 mile mark, what they have, and even at the 10K, time trial pace, we know what that athlete has the capability of.
Yeah, and typically with the traditional training method, the person that's going to go out and run 20 miles on a Saturday, on Monday they're out, or even the next,
a couple days later, going out and running
doing another,
again.
10 to 13 mile run, and it's just
maybe not that much. But they might be running another
well,
6.
I see them all over Bluffton, and I'm just assuming that they're running lots of miles.
There's definitely some athletes like that, and but it just a recovery from even a 6 or 7 mile run is a lot, especially depending on how many times you do that throughout a week. But yeah, we had a lot of other athletes out there do really well.
Yeah, talk about Jake.
Yeah, Jake did awesome. So Jake, first time half marathon, never really been a runner. Took our course, 12-week course leading up to the event. We sat down the night before the race, went through his pacing plan, his nutrition based off the benchmarks we had on him, and I think the dude actually came in a little bit quicker than we had anticipated. I was coming back over the bridge and I saw him and he looked strong, and he literally must have finished strong because he finished 2 hours and 6 minutes, his first half marathon. I think we had him predicted around 2:08 to 2:10, but he must have followed his nutrition. I haven't talked to him yet. I'll have to give him a call today. But followed his nutrition and pacing plan to the T, and it paid off. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, like, a half marathon is a really good, especially if you're training for a marathon, it's a good time to even practice the nutrition, the fluids.
Totally.
It's ideal because you're in the race setting, and you're trying to kind of figure out, okay, what am I going to use when I am doing the marathon? It's just a good thing to incorporate into a marathon training program, which is what we're doing.
That's a great point, because we talk about benchmarking the number itself, but also benchmarking how you feel physically, putting in those fluids, putting in whatever you're going to use for that race, and just getting used to using the course, because we encourage our athletes to use the course, so it takes a little bit of the guesswork out of things. Getting back to your point about like goals and targets and getting the outcomes, we've talked about this a little bit before. This benchmarking style of things, like the 10K, the half marathon, really gives you like a target number. Like, we know this number needs to be X if you're going to finish this marathon time.
Yeah.
It's also important that athletes don't get wrapped up in that target, because
Oh my gosh.
we see that happen a lot, and I'll probably be writing a blog later on it, is the time doesn't dictate your success.
Yeah.
And it really, like, the only time that really matters is, did you feel good about it? Did you feel, like, how you react to that time is what I care about.
Yeah. If you improved, that's awesome, because you're going to continue to improve, if you're
But if you didn't improve, then okay, we're at the drawing boards. That's awesome. So we can now look at this and decide this is the route we want to take, so that you are constantly improving.
Yeah. Like, just for example, with my time, my fastest is actually 6 minutes faster than what I did.
Yeah, 1:33, right?
Yeah, 1:33 is my fastest, but I didn't taper. It was a longer course by about 200 meters, which 30 seconds, whoop-de-whoop.
No, it's a little more than 30
longer.
seconds. Yeah, it's 60 to 90 seconds for someone running at your pace.
And then the weather was cold, just like different things. And
and it's not like making excuses, but it's like, okay, this wasn't the true half marathon distance per se. This was a benchmark. This was a time trial on the weekend. I trained hard the entire week. Okay, if it was, I tapered, I did all the right things, then we definitely have to switch something up.
Yeah.
But cool.
Well, what's going on this week, Jeff?
Not much. We probably want to wrap this up. This week's pretty straightforward. We're gonna start upping some of the workouts, increasing some of the intervals. I think weekly mileage last week was still around 12 to 15 miles. Not include, let's see, half marathon. It was under 20. with the interval sessions and stuff like that. But no, we'll still be following a different squat scheme on Wednesdays, just mixing and matching with some of the strength stuff. And I don't know, Boston's getting close.
Yeah, getting excited.
Should be another good week.
Yep.
Cool. Well, we hammered home benchmarks. Definitely make sure you're doing it 3 to 4 weeks with your athletes or with yourself. We'll be back at you for another Training Less Towards Boston podcast next week.
That's right.
Take care, guys.
Bye.